Welcome to Brent's Anime Recommendation Corner, where I talk about an anime that I love, and today I'm going to talk about Tsukigagi Ran, Carried by the Wind. Oh, do I love this show. This is a samurai road trip anime set in the Edo period, except that the samurai and her companion are a woman. So we have Ran here, who is a traveling female samurai, which, by the way, was a thing. There were female samurai. Rare, but it did happen. And she is traveling through the Edo period. She is also joined by Lady Meow of the Iron Cat Fist, who you are seeing here doing her thing as Lady Meow of the Iron Cat Fist. And this is wonderful in many ways because it is definitely a comedy. It's a fun road trip story. As they're going around having all of their kind of adventures in Edo-era Japan. And it is, in many ways, a love letter to samurai movies. And the tone of those. Ran is a bit of a drinker, but an excellent swordswoman. And it's just great fun because it is all of that. But what is more interesting and more important, and one of the reasons I talk about it a lot, is because it is a remarkably effective look at Edo period life. You don't see anachronisms here. You don't see strange bits of history. This is a show that tries to really represent the Edo era well, and also lesser known aspects of the Edo era. Stuff like street culture, street art, woodblock prints, how they were being sold to people, how affordable they were. The relationship between the common people and their lord, where the common people weren't always simply, distressed and downtrodden, and the lord was just kind of this, remote figure. The lord was supposed to protect the people, and so if there were bandits, like, they would go to the lord and say, "Why aren't you dealing with this thing? Like, this is what your job is." So there's this interesting sort of element of the roles of different people in society at the time, and how that was evolving, and what was going on in society, or not necessarily evolving, but what they kind of were traditionally in this situation, in a fun, light comedy. Now, I will say this came out in the early 2000s when anime budgets were not what they were today. It was a trough in terms of anime budgets between like the 90s and today. So what they do is the very clever thing. Most of the sequences have exactly as much animation as you need to make that sequence happen. It is, no slouch there. And then when the action happens, it is butter smooth, beautiful battle action animation. It is exactly what you've been waiting the entire episode for. It feels so good to get that. And so I really enjoy Ran for pulling all these things together. It is directed by Akutaro Daiichi of Fruits Basket and many other really impressive works in Kadocha. And it's really, really just a breath of fresh air. Again, it is one of those things where it is limited by the production of its time, but once you realize that and get into it, it's just a fun samurai action comedy that does kind of give you a little bit of education about what things were back in the day, which we don't get that often in anime. Actually, a lot of Edo period stuff is kind of romanticized or fantasticized, if you will, and this does much less of that, which is very refreshing. So that is Tsukigagi Ran. I hope you can come across it and enjoy it at some point.